Hello, it's Len Nagati, a member of Long Long Cares and founder of Food Secure Future, a place for people of all ages and backgrounds to share ideas and learn about the most pressing food security issues. I'm here today with a special guest, Dr. Melissa Fuster, who has too many accomplishments to list, but to name a few, she received her Ph.D. in food policy and applied nutrition from Tufts University. Her research examines the contextual factors influencing food practices and the policies and interventions implemented to improve them. She's an expert in both public health, nutrition, and food studies, and author of the book, Caribeños at the Table, How Migration, Health, and Race Intersect in New York City. Hello, Dr. Fuster. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Today, I'd like to discuss how community-based interventions can help improve food security. So with that being said, my first question for you today is, what are some of the key challenges faced by communities in achieving food security? And how do community-based interventions address these challenges?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I wanted to start by first talking about what do we mean by food security. And when we talk about food security, we usually talk about the lack of access to food, but it's not just any food, it's enough food for a healthy life. So that also implies access to healthy foods that, again, it's not just any food. So this is something important to keep in mind, especially in contexts like the United States, where we can arguably think that we have enough food, but sometimes access to the right kinds of foods is not, it is the problem. And I think, again, there's the issue of access. So when we talk about key challenges, these are, of course, economic in nature. So we can talk about high levels of poverty, unemployment, and other aspects associated with this, such as people not having affordable housing, affordable healthcare. You have people, for example, in communities debating whether I buy my prescription medication or food. So these are very tough things that go beyond just the food. At the same time, it is not just economic access. We also have to talk about physical access. And what this means is that just having the foods in the community and that are also readily available and are foods that people actually want to consume for their healthy lifestyle. And in regards to that, then we talk about challenges related to the community food environments, where we have places that don't have a supermarket, don't have access to just buying the food, when people have to get in their cars and drive miles to get, again, to buy the food. So all of these issues, we can also not forget the structural underlying causes, such as, for example, a history of systemic racism and many events that have happened to underserved communities that have led to the situations that we see today.
Yeah, thank you for your response. It's more, food security is more than just the food aspect, right?
Yeah.
So my next question for you is, could you share examples of successful community-based interventions that have significantly improved food security in vulnerable populations, and what factors contributed to their success?
Yeah, I think when we talk about community-based interventions, they can take many different forms. They can go from the direct provision of foods, if you look at the work of food banks, for example, but they can also take other more complex iterations. For example, you can work with existing outlets for them to change what's available in the outlets. Many interventions, for example, working with corner stores to have facilitate, for example, refrigeration equipment so that they can have perishable items available for the community. And there's also, of course, things around nutrition education is another one that's commonly done. But I think that successful interventions could go a little bit beyond that. For example, instead of just providing nutrition education, it's very important that we also provide communities with the tools, for example, around budgeting, how to buy, for example, in bulk, how to preserve what you buy so that you don't have food waste once the food gets into the home. But then I think that it's very important to try to address those root causes, because otherwise you'll just have to keep distributing the food, and that is not sustainable. And I do like models also, interventions that address the issue at multiple levels. What this means is that it's not just at the individual level, that they try to tackle different areas of change. One project that I wanted to share that or type of project that does that, I was thinking, for example, of the food project in Boston. And the reason why I think about that one, it was that it was one of the first I encountered when I was starting to engage in this work as a graduate student at Tufts in Boston. And it was really exciting to learn about this project because what they do is that they engage with the youth and train them. So they provide job training skills, and the youth work in local farms in the city. And also you can see them selling in farmers markets and engaging with the community. So with an intervention like that, you're not just increasing the access to food that is also affordable and healthy, but you're also training the youth and potentially providing economic ways for them to improve their economic situation in the future. And there are many things like that. Oh, and also another one with that one is that when you have interventions that bring food production to local communities, you also influence the local food system for it to be healthier. And there are many different projects like that. For example, here in New Orleans, where I live now, we have a similar project called Grow That, which is the same idea that they engage with the youth. And that one, for example, have young people working in the farm and also making what is called CSA boxes, community supported agriculture boxes that are by subscription. And for example, they provide people that are SNAP recipients, food stamps recipient, the box at half the cost. So it's like very interesting, different ways of addressing the problem. That's not just here's the food, here's how to eat healthy.
Yeah. So instead of just giving people the food and solving it for a little bit of time, you're actually teaching them and attacking the problem at its roots. All right. So community engagement is vital for the success of interventions. How do you ensure active participation and collaboration from community members in designing and implementing food security programs?
Yes, it is vital, as you say, and actually very good sustainable interventions tend to have a lot of that community engagement where we talk to people, basically, how do they see the problem, what solutions they see, which of course works so much better than us coming in and telling them, oh, you need this, you need that, when they're actually the people that know. But it's difficult. It takes time, but it's really important. And I think in those engagements, respect and humility are key. And with that, you need to respect, again, their lived experiences and their expertise in the problem that you're trying to solve, because again, they are the ones being mostly affected by the problem, and they can give you also ideas about solutions. Maybe you come in with an idea and they might say like, oh, we tried that already. It didn't work, or it had this unintended consequence. So it's really important to just talk to the community. And also when you, again, we can use this, and it sounds very general, because there are many people within communities that you can talk to, and that's when it becomes challenging to make sure that you are engaging key people. You're not just talking to a certain segment of the community, and that you also understand, for example, community dynamics, power dynamics between players, community organizations, residents, to ensure that you don't leave out those that are the most vulnerable, which at the same time, if you think about it, they might also be the ones that don't have the time to come and talk to you or to complete your surveys. You have to keep them in mind and try to find creative ways of bringing them into the conversation and including their perspectives.
Yeah, everyone's perspective is important. So my final question for you today is, in your experience, what role does local governance and policy play in supporting and sustaining community-based intervention for food security?
A vital role. We have to, policy government is crucial in this work. We cannot have food security and the health of the community be dependent on just organizations, nonprofits, even though they are at the front line of the solution. We do need more systemic, bigger changes, and that the government needs to be involved. And these, using local policies, ordinance, we can really address the underlying causes I was talking about in the beginning. And some concrete examples are for zoning laws. Sometimes bringing a farmer's market into a community is not easy. You're taking up a space. There might be zoning issues around those spaces. So working with local urban planners to ensure that we can find spaces for food to come in, and maybe tweak some ordinances or zonings to allow for mixed use spaces like residential and commercial, so you also bring food to where people live. Other things can be economic incentives. This can be, for example, an easy one that we don't get to do is subsidizing producers of healthy foods. We don't do that, and there are many reasons why that can be complicated, but I know there are many people pushing for that type of change. But there are other more simple things in terms of economic incentives, for example, providing tax incentives or ways to minimize the cost for existing stores to, for example, when you buy equipment that will result in healthier food being available, maybe you get reimbursed the tax that you paid on that equipment, or you get discounts on permits and other things that you need for your business if you are meeting or you're providing certain amount of healthier options. In terms of the consumer, there are things that some cities do, for example, lowering the cost of food. There are many ways of doing that, not only by subsidizing producers, but also a simple thing that some cities do, that when you buy food, actual food in the supermarket, you don't get taxed on it. You don't get the sales tax on food. Or again, just lowering the cost or providing incentives for people to buy certain foods. But then, of course, we also have to ensure that the government at the federal level continues to fund and support existing key safety nets, such as the SNAP program, the WIC program, Women, Infants, and that key nutrition program that has been so successful for helping mothers and their children have better nutrition. And even thinking about the school lunch program, elderly feeding programs, that those are at the federal level that at times they can be under attack when we're talking about budget negotiations in the country, but they're really, really important to at least sustain people so that they don't fall further into poverty.
Yeah, the government pretty much decides everything, and we just have to vote for people that we think will do what is in our best interest.
Exactly. So I think bringing these conversations to light so that we understand better exactly what you're doing, what is community food security, what can be done to improve it, and reminding us that honestly, any of us can fall into food insecure situations. You never know what lives will bring you. So if we can ensure that everybody has good, equal access to healthy food, you're not just helping yourself also in doing that, because if you live in a community where people are healthy, they have access to basic things like food and housing, you're also improving your quality of life in the process.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you. These were a great question. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you for joining me.